make violins both for a living. I buy them, I repair them, I sell them. I've been doing this for almost 30 years in New York City. I got into this crazy business being a bad violinist. I studied violin seriously. Among my teachers was a guy named George Zazowski, a violinist, who I studied with, and Louis Krasner, who I studied violin with for 1 year. Louis Krasner was the person who commissioned the Berg Violin Concerto, famous piece. Then I went to Aspen, Colorado, my second or third year in college. I met some people there, and the climate in Aspen, Colorado is very, very dry. All the seams on the violins usually open up, or many of them, and I met a luthier man there who got me interested in making bows. And so I was still in college. He said, try to study about making bows. And I basically followed his advice. Well, I'd always had been interested in making violins. And he said, no, make bows. And he says, you're better for bows. Well, the truth is I barely even knew what a bow was then. But I took his advice. I was a bad violinist. I was in Aspen, Colorado. Everybody around me played much better than me. I'm going to have trouble making a living. But I've always liked making things with my hands. We've always done this since I was a little kid.
How long did it take you to become a bow maker?
Right, honestly, I still consider that I'm still learning. I've been doing this for quite a while. But I think many creative fields, the process never stops. You're always learning. Yes, you learn a certain basics of rudimentary, but I still pick up stuff all the time wherever I go. And I'm always interested to try to improve my knowledge. I think no matter what your field of study is or whatever, you gotta have this kind of thirst. You just can't stop. You can't stop and be content. If you get too content, it's not good.
Perhaps you could describe how you make a bow? What is important?
Well, there are basics to this whole thing. Number one is the stick itself. May I grab a bow?
Yeah.
This one. The wood itself, this wood, it's called Pernambuco. In Portuguese, it's called pau-brasil. Brazil is the only country in the world named after a tree. It's the national tree of Brazil. Woods, high-grade bows are made only of Pernambuco, which is only indigenous to Brazil. It's a kind of endangered species, a little bit. But the primary thing is if you want to make a good bow, you must have good Pernambuco. Okay, so the process is, of course, after they cut down the tree and it comes into boards, whatever, then we get them, we cut sticks out, we cure the sticks generally 10-15 years, and then we make the bow. How do we make the bow? We plane the wood down. This is not the only way, but most people that I know with bow making that I'm involved with make bows by hand. So we use many hand tools. This curve right here is put in by heat. You can use alcohol lamp or coal heat. Some people use an electric oven to heat up. The frog here is made of ebony. The metal parts, generally most bow makers fashion them themselves. I do all this by hand. I don't buy pre-made frogs. Some people make pre-made frogs, which is fine. Depends what you want to do. Generally, the process takes no more than 40 hours. So that's it.
That's it. That's the theory.
Yeah. I think like many things, once you learn the basic things, as I said before, the thing is important is to refine your knowledge. Let's put it this way. Gain more information, that always try to make the product better. When I say make the product better, not only of the making, but you have to understand your customers better. It is a very personal thing. People are very attached to their equipment, to whether it be to the violin or bows. And actually, it's one thing to find an instrument. It's actually much easier than finding the bow. The bow is much, much more subjective and much more personal. A lot of factors go into this, whether you're just out of conservatory or you get older. Physically, you don't have maybe certain kind of physical power that you had when you're say 20 compared to 30 compared to 40. And this becomes really much more apparent on the bow side than the left hand, than the fingering. But it's very, very apparent to this. I've had the good fortune of having almost every major soloist in the last 25 years has come to me, so I deal with very high-profile players. And they push you. The better the bow, the better the player, the refinement is smaller and smaller. But the difference in the sound and the feel in the hand is tremendous. The better the player, they're very, very sensitive to this. So you have to be aware of this.
Each of you has a special way to make bows.
Yes. You can see the personality in the people. Absolutely, you can see their personality. Sounds a little strange, but you have to be in this business for a while and be around the whole field to understand that. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because I think bow makers generally share more information than the instrument makers. And we've been very good about sharing information for various reasons.
Could you try to describe what is your personal, your special way of making bows?
As I explained before, I was a violinist, not a good one. But I think being around a lot of very, very good players has helped me understand playing better. I always want to know how a person plays. I want to know the sound of their violin, how they play, dark sound, bright sound.
You got to hear the sound, but also have to see the way someone plays.
Oh yes, it helps me. But I like to listen first. I use it as a little game. I try to figure out how physically, when I hear the sound, how they're using the equipment. It's important, because no two people play the same way. I will ask them to try many different kinds of bows to see what they really like. So after that, then I have a selection of wood that I have, that I've been aging for a long time, and I will make the bow, hopefully, that they will like the bow. I won't make 10 bows and just show them to whom anybody comes in. It doesn't really interest me. I'm not saying that that's wrong. There are people who do it, and it's fine. But I'm in a major area in New York City, and I like the challenge of dealing with someone one-on-one. So I will make the bow accordingly how I think will help them.
What inspires you?
I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's many, many, many things. I do like nature a great deal. I'm very into certain kinds of gardening. I'm into Japanese maple trees and things like this. I like to take care of my garden and my grounds myself. And I love the outdoors. I just like seeing things. I've always gone to museums a lot. When I was little, my parents forced us to go. And I still go. I still go. Obviously, I'm stimulated by people. That's a big part of it also. It's not just one thing.
I think by musicians, you must be inspired.
Oh, sure. Most of the time. Sometimes I'm not. A lot of the people that have come to me, I've seen them over a long, long period of time. Obviously, you have to try to understand the people, even if you don't like them. But it's a give and take thing. It's not only me understanding, if you come to me understanding you, you have to understand with me. I'm very direct, personally. I don't play around. I don't have time for that. So. George Bush? No. The camera broke. Well, as far as the field goes, it would be interesting for you to see Bernard Milat. He's really something. And there's a pretty interesting guy. He's associated with another aspect of something that we do with conservation of the tree in Brazil, a program. A gentleman in France named Marco Cimbali.